My parents left me out of their will to give everything to my perfect sister. They thought I wasn't worthy, but karma had other plans, and now they're begging me for help. Growing up, I always knew I was the afterthought in my family. My parents doted on my older sister, treating her like the golden child while I was left to fend for myself. It wasn't outright abuse, but it was neglect in its purest form. Ignored achievements, forgotten birthdays, and a constant reminder that no matter what I did, it would never be enough. My sister, Millie, was their pride and joy. She was smart, beautiful, and charming, the perfect daughter in their eyes. Everything she wanted, she got. New clothes, the latest phone, a brand new car the moment she got her license. Meanwhile, I worked part-time just to afford a second-hand laptop for school. It didn't matter that I was also excelling in my studies or that I had dreams just as big as hers. To my parents, I was always second place, if even that. Despite this, I still held onto a sliver of hope that maybe, just maybe, I could earn their love and approval. But that illusion was shattered the day my father sat me down for a serious talk when I turned 18. "We've decided that your sister will be the sole beneficiary of our estate," he said, his tone cold and matter-of-fact. "She's the responsible one, and she'll take care of things when we're gone." I remember feeling numb. "You're leaving me with nothing?" I asked, barely able to get the words out. My mother scoffed. "You'll be fine. You've always been independent. Besides, Millie will help you if you ever need it." Millie smirked from across the room, not even pretending to hide her glee. "Of course, little bro," she said sweetly, the condescension dripping from her voice. "If you ever need a loan, I'm sure we can work something out." That was the moment I knew I was truly on my own. They had never considered me family, not in the way they did Millie. To them, I was an obligation, someone they had to tolerate but never love. So I left. I packed my things that night and walked out the door without looking back. If they didn't want me, I wouldn't beg them to keep me around. I had nothing but a few $100s in my bank account, a cheap car that barely ran, and the weight of years of rejection pressing down on me. But I also had something more important: freedom. I worked tirelessly. I put myself through college, taking night classes while working full-time jobs. I struggled, yes, but I never gave up. With every paycheck, every late-night study session, every promotion, I built the life they never thought I could have. I started my own business, small at first, but it grew rapidly. By the time I was in my late 20s, I was earning more than I ever imagined. More than Millie, more than my parents. And then karma came knocking. It started with a phone call from my mother. I debated ignoring it, but curiosity got the best of me. When I answered, I heard the desperation in her voice immediately. "We need your help," she said, a tremor in her usually composed tone. "What kind of help?" I asked, already knowing where this was going. "Millie, she made some bad investments. She lost a lot of money," she admitted. We had to remortgage the house to cover her debts, but it wasn't enough. Now we might lose everything." I bit back a laugh. The irony was almost too much to bear. "So, let me get this straight," I said, keeping my voice even. "You gave her everything, and now she's squandered it all?" My father's voice came on the line then, gruff and impatient. "We wouldn't be asking if it wasn't serious. You have the means to help us. We're still your family." Family, a word they had never truly applied to me when it mattered. And now, when they were at their lowest, I was suddenly important, suddenly worthy. I took a deep breath, my mind racing. This was my moment, the chance to turn the tables. But I wasn't going to make it easy for them. "I'll think about it," I said finally, hanging up before they could say another word. But in reality, I had already made my decision. They had abandoned me when I needed them most. Now, it was my turn to decide if they deserved the same fate. And I wasn't feeling generous. I didn't rush my decision. I wanted them to stew in their desperation, to truly understand what it meant to feel abandoned. The way I had felt when they turned their backs on me. Days passed, then weeks. I ignored their calls, their texts, their attempts to manipulate me with guilt. My mother's messages started with pleading and quickly turned into passive-aggressive accusations. We raised you. How could you be so heartless? Millie made mistakes, but she's still your sister. Family forgives. Then, my father's messages came, shorter and filled with frustration. You're acting like a child. We need your help and you're playing games. Grow up. Each word only reinforced my resolve. They weren't sorry for how they treated me. They didn't regret leaving me out of their will, casting me aside for Millie. No, they only regretted that Millie had failed them, that their perfect daughter had lost everything. And now, the son they had ignored, belittled, and discarded was their only hope. Eventually, my curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to meet them on my terms. I invited them to my office, a large, sleek space overlooking the city skyline, a far cry from the life they had imagined for me when they pushed me out. They arrived looking exhausted, desperation written across their faces. My mother was the first to speak, her voice trembling as she forced a smile. "Oh, sweetheart, look at you. You've done so well for yourself. We're so proud." I almost laughed. Proud? They hadn't spoken to me in years. Not when I graduated, not when I started my business, not when I bought my first home. But now that they needed me, suddenly they were proud? I leaned back in my chair. "What do you need?" My father cleared his throat, his discomfort evident. "Millie made some bad choices. We trusted her with our finances, and, well, things spiraled. We need help to pay off some debts. The bank is threatening to take the house." Millie sat beside them, silent. She had always been the confident one, the golden child, but now she looked like a shadow of her former self. I wondered how much it hurt her to be in this position, to have to ask for my help after years of looking down on me. I let the silence stretch between us before speaking. "You mean the house you told me I'd never be a part of? The inheritance I was cut out of because Millie was the responsible one? That house." My mother winced. We didn't think." "No, you didn't," I interrupted. "You assumed I'd fail, that I'd always need you, but I didn't. And now you're asking me to bail you out." Millie finally spoke, her voice small. "Please, I messed up. I know that, but I need help. We need help." I studied them carefully, weighing my options. Every part of me wanted to turn them away, to let them suffer the way I had. But I wasn't the same lost, desperate boy they had abandoned. I smiled, slow and deliberate. "I'll help you, but on my terms." Relief flooded my mother's face, my father exhaling in what he thought was victory. "Thank you, son. We knew you'd come through." I raised a hand, silencing them. "I'll buy the house, but not for you. I'll buy it under my name, and you can live there on one condition." My father's expression darkened. "What condition?" "You sign over any claim you have to it. It's my house. You live there as long as I allow it. You don't get a say in what happens to it. And when I decide, I can evict you anytime. No questions asked." My mother paled. "That's not fair. We built that house. And you told me I was never a part of it," I said calmly. "Now, do you want my help or not?" They looked at each other, silently debating. Millie's shoulders slumped in defeat. "We don't have a choice." I nodded. "Then we have a deal." I wasn't just helping them, I was taking back what was rightfully mine. But this was only the beginning. I still had a lesson to teach them. The meeting with my parents and Millie had left a bitter taste in my mouth. Even after all these years, after all the ways they had dismissed and belittled me, I had still given in and agreed to buy the house. Maybe it was old wounds making me weak. Maybe a part of me still wanted closure. But the moment I wired the money to the bank, I felt an overwhelming sense of regret. Had I just fallen into their trap again? A week later, I got a text from my mother. "Thank you, sweetheart. You won't regret this. We're so proud of you." Proud? That was rich coming from them. I didn't even bother responding. I tried to push the whole thing out of my mind, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. They had barely spoken to me in years, yet they had no problem coming to me with their financial troubles. And Millie, the smug way she had sat back and let them do the talking, it didn't sit right with me. I decided to dig a little deeper. Since I had purchased the house outright, I had access to all the financial records. A quick call to the bank revealed something shocking. The house hadn't been at risk of foreclosure at all. The payments were behind, but nowhere near eviction. That's when it hit me. They had lied. They had used me. Anger burned through me as I scrolled through my phone. I checked Millie's social media, and what I saw made my blood boil. She had just posted pictures of herself on vacation at an expensive resort, laughing by the pool, sipping cocktails, posing in designer outfits. The caption, "Self-care is essential. Treat yourself." They had played me for a fool. The next morning, I drove straight to the house. When I walked in, my parents and Millie were sitting in the living room, looking all too comfortable in the home that I now owned. Millie glanced up from her phone and smirked. "Oh, hey there, little bro. What brings you here?" I clenched my fists. "Cut the crap, Millie. I saw your vacation posts. You never needed my help, did you?" My mother tensed. "We did need help," she said quickly. "Things were getting difficult." I shook my head. "No, you didn't. The house wasn't anywhere near foreclosure. You tricked me into paying for it so Millie wouldn't have to give up her spoiled lifestyle." Millie rolled her eyes. "Oh, come on. You have plenty of money. Why does it matter?" I let out a short laugh, but there was no humor in it. "It matters because you didn't just ask for help. You lied to me. You guilt-tripped me. Made me think I was doing the right thing for a struggling family, when really all I was doing was bailing you out of your reckless spending." My father crossed his arms. "You're overreacting." "Am I?" I pulled out my phone and tapped on the screen. "Because I have the bank statements right here. And as the legal owner of this house, I think I have the right to know exactly what my money went toward." Their faces paled. "What are you saying?" my mother asked hesitantly. I took a deep breath and looked each of them in the eye. "I'm saying that I own this house now. And if you think you can keep living here after what you did, you're dead wrong." Millie's jaw dropped. You wouldn't." I raised an eyebrow. "Wouldn't I? Because as far as I see it, you don't own anything anymore. You conned me out of my money, and now it's time for you to face the consequences." My father slammed his fist on the table. "You ungrateful little." "I'm not ungrateful. I just finally learned my lesson." I turned toward the door. "You have 30 days to move out, and if you don't, I'll have the law handle it." Millie looked furious. "This is my house." "No," I said, smiling coldly. "It was. Now it's mine." The fallout was immediate. My parents called me every name in the book, accusing me of being heartless, cruel, and ungrateful. Millie threw a tantrum, screaming that I had ruined her life. But I didn't care. I was done being their doormat. True to my word, I gave them 30 days to vacate the house. At first, they refused to take me seriously. They were convinced I wouldn't follow through. But when the official eviction notice arrived, reality hit them hard. Millie, for all her arrogance, had never learned how to stand on her own. With no money and no house, she was forced to sell off her designer bags and luxury items just to scrape by. My parents, once so confident in their favoritism, were now facing the harsh truth. They had backed the wrong horse. As for me, I walked away with my head high, knowing I had finally broken free from their toxic grip. They had tried to rob me of everything, but in the end, karma had done its job. I never looked back, and honestly, I never felt lighter. Be sure to comment and tell me about your opinion. If you guys like this confession and want to listen more confession story like this, then click on the like button and subscribe to me. Your sub motivate me to create more video like this. See you in a next video with new story.